Hello and welcome to the only podcast hoping for a Terrence Howard cameo in Tales of the Empire. I'm Luke.
I'm Max.
And I'm Matt.
And this is Force for Thought. All right. Hello and welcome.
Even discussing that joke beforehand, I didn't understand where you were going with that.
It was
It's low-hanging fruit.
for the viewer.
You just said like, okay, I'll just make an Empire joke, and I'm like, okay.
Oh, you thought the Empire, like from Star Wars?
Yeah, that's what this podcast is
Yes.
about.
Well, to be
That is
fair,
also what the joke hinges on to a degree.
for the listener / viewer, I was talking about how the only joke I could come up with was from Boardwalk Empire, and then Luke said, "Oh, the only thing I'm thinking of is Empire." So, just absolutely nailed it, Luke.
We're always on the
That
same
was
wavelength.
hilarious. I mean, historically we are not. If you listen to the podcast,
I was much more on board with Luke. I was like, yeah, go with a Star Wars joke.
nope, just a Terrence Howard War Machine V1 Iron Man joke.
Anyway, Tales of the Empire. How do we want to talk about? I think we should talk about Barriss Offee and then Morgan Elsbeth,
Also-
because I'm way more excited to talk about Barriss Offee. I assume it's going to be 6 episodes, just like season 1.
Mhm.
All right,
Well, give some background.
We'll start
Yeah, it's,
there. Are we
yeah.
calling this season 2 of Tales of the Jedi?
No, it's
or
a different show.
Is it a new show?
Dude, show and so the
Tales-
trailer dropped, which is why we're doing this episode.
Yeah, let's start by talking about the name, because I was the most surprised about that. We knew that a Tales of the Jedi season 2 was coming, but they didn't make any mention that it was going to be called something other than Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
They always portrayed it to be an anthology series, which makes sense. And then at the end, when I saw Tales of the Empire, I was like, oh my god, we're going to get everything. We're going to get Tales of the Rebellion, Tales of the Resistance, Tales of the High Republic.
Yes. So, what are you saying that this is indeed in lieu of season 2 of Tales of the Jedi, or are you saying that this is the anthology season Tales of the Empire? Because the logo burned away from, which is one of the coolest parts of the trailer, which is hard. It's a tough nut to crack, but like seeing it burn away from Jedi to Empire was like, oh, that's satisfying as hell.
It is.
But,
It's the exact same thing that they did, though, with the Clone Wars going into Bad Batch.
Yeah, that's what I was about
oh,
to say.
but it's still satisfying, is it not?
It is.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The same thing. Even though I've seen it before, seeing it again never gets old. I was like,
Nope.
oh yeah, that's good.
So, do you guys think that this is season 2 of?
I do. I don't think we'll
Okay.
get a season 2 of Tales of the Jedi that's not this. Which my initial thought is I'm disappointed that we're not getting Tales of the Jedi with Kit Fisto. Obviously, that was my number one goal. And I don't want to sound negative, like a negative Nelly, because I know I'm gonna love Tales of the Empire. I know it's gonna be amazing. I love Barriss Offee. My phone is named Barriss, and I've been wanting that follow up to her story for years and years, and I know I'm gonna love it. And the Morgan Elsbeth stuff sounds super interesting. Thrawn in Clone Wars animation looked awesome.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna love it. But similar to the Solo movie and Andor, at the inception phase, I'm like, do we really need this now? Because I was so excited. I really want just almost any other Jedi. Like, we were joking about Tales of the Jedi, and we said, I just hope it's not Obi-Wan. And it's not Obi-Wan, but almost any other Jedi. I'm still hoping for Rey or a High Republic character. They could have done some cool synergy with the Acolyte coming out, any of those characters. Again, I'm not sad. I just was really hoping for some new Jedi.
Yeah.
Some different Jedi.
We were also talking about Mace too. Hopefully, it wasn't Mace. So it's not.
That's true. That would have been, that would have frustrated me to no end.
Now that I know what they're doing with this, though, I disagree. I'm very excited with this. I really like the choice. I'm more excited for Barriss Offee because obviously she had a very big storyline in the Clone Wars where she turned against the Jedi, and there was this whole plot against them, and then she kind of like exposes the Jedi Order for what it is at the very end, which, for our listeners who don't know, fun fact, one of the temple guards that was present when she was arrested was the Grand Inquisitor.
I'm also glad that we're getting more of this story fleshed out, because it's been, 10 years since that Clone Wars episodes came out, and people like to glorify Barriss, and they're like, oh, but she was right. The Jedi had lost their way. And it's like, yeah, she was right about that, but she also framed Ahsoka for the bombing, and she was like definitely a bad person.
How she got there
Yeah.
wasn't the smoothest.
Yes.
And that's the only downside. I feel like if this is taking which I assume taking place of Jedi, Tales of the Jedi season 2 is, I feel like they didn't really crack the code on Tales of the Jedi season 1, because we talked about it's interesting to see those stories, but I feel like we all kind of just found it was cool to watch, right? It was like, okay, 6 episodes, right?
Mhm.
Was 6, right?
Yeah.
Because the new one's 8.
Oh, is it?
I believe it said it's 8.
Yeah, Tales of the Jedi wasn't 6 episodes.
Yes,
I thought it was. Yeah.
There
It was 3 Ahsoka, 3 Dooku, and that's
That's
what
what
I
I thought.
assumed this was going to be also. But you're
For
sure
s-
it's 8?
I don't know. For some reason, I swear in the trailer it said 8 episodes.
Oh, I thought it was,
I could be making
I thought it
that
was
up.
4 and 4 for some reason.
But either way, I feel like they didn't fully crack it, and so it just makes me a little nervous just for the fact that they're just moving on to Tales of the Empire, which I'm glad, and they're gonna, if this is an anthology show, they'll tweak it as it goes along, as well. And then the other thing, I'm just like, I hate on IMDb personally, big IMDb freak, when an anthology show happens like this, and then it makes a separate page for it. It's like, no,
Instead of
the
going to
sh-
season 2.
yes, the show should be called then Tales of ... ellipses. And then season 1, Jedi, season 2, Empire, season 3. And so it's like Wet Hot American Summer. First day of camp and 10 years later, or like different seasons. It's like, well, no, it's the same show. It's just different seasons.
How does American Horror Story handle that?
American Horror Story does it perfectly, though. And that's the thing. Is like
They
just,
do it like you want with the ellipses.
yeah.
and-
So when you go to American, well, no, it's just called American Horror Story, and then like the subtitle, right?
Mhm.
And so it's so when you go on IMDb, you just check, there's 12 seasons or whatever now, which I prefer, because it's like it gets so confusing. If there's going to be 8 of these seasons, it's going to be like 8 different pages for Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Rebellion, Tales of the Gungan. We can only hope.
It'll be Tales of the Empire and then Tales of the Rebellion and
There
then
is-
probably Tales of the Republic. I have talked about it before how I want them to branch out from this era, and I know they're doing it in the Acolyte, and they claim to be doing it with the Rey movie and the Dawn of the Jedi movie. We'll see. But part of me feels like, and I don't want this to sound rude to Dave Filoni, because I love Dave Filoni and all the work he's done. He seems like a super nice person from everything I've ever heard him say. But part of me feels like, and he's chief creative officer now too, so he's high up there. I feel like he's at Lucasfilm playing with his Ahsoka and Clone Wars toys, and every year or so, Kathleen Kennedy knocks on his door and is like, hey, Dave, we have this character named Rey. And he just hisses at her and shuts the door. And he says, shut up about Rey. We're doing this again. And now it's like, it's just the same thing over and over. And Bad Batch was just barely different than the Clone Wars. And then Tales of the Jedi was just barely different. And now this is just barely different. Like the end of the trailer when they show Vader, they're like, welcome, or time to meet your new master. And it's like,
Yeah.
of course it's Vader. I've seen him every 6 months for 20 years.
Yes.
But it never gets old. But here's the thing. I would push back on that because it doesn't seem like they're setting up anything new. They're just tying up loose ends. And that's something that we complain about on this podcast all the time is loose ends that they never go back on. What was going on with Darth Maul at the end of Solo, things like that. And so Dave Filoni, because he's still there and he is chief creative officer, is able to go back and kind of tie bows on things. He is able to go back to the Barriss Offee storyline and show us what happened to her after the fall of the Jedi Order, as well as, obviously, Dave Filoni is the showrunner for Ahsoka, and he's basically using his 3 episodes of Morgan Elsbeth as like a prequel to Ahsoka to show her story and how she gets involved with Thrawn. But also, Barriss's storyline is also going to be a little bit of a prequel to Ahsoka as well, because did you see Marok is also in it as well? Marok and the Unnamed Inquisitor from season 1 of Tales of the Jedi, who I'm super excited to probably not learn any more about if I'm being realistic, but at least look at a little bit more, because that person was sick. And one of our fans reached out after our costumes ranked episode, saying that Unnamed Inquisitor would have been high up on their list. And
Yep.
that one, I was like, yeah, I 100% agree with that. Had I thought of that, I probably should have given them a
The last shot with all of them is really rad.
Yeah.
I wonder
Um,
if that's a cut of that last shot. And there's actually also fifth brother, second sister. I mean, any
Oh.
number of other Inquisitors.
Why
Because I
would
assume
they cut
this
them
is,
out, though?
I don't know, too much hype. I mean, that would be a big deal to introduce like the second sister or the third sister at this scene. Because I assume this is also early Empire days. Like I would guess weeks or months after Order 66, but I conjecture. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I also love the walls that we see in Phantom Menace. Pop up here as well when they're like, there's one last battle or whatever, and the walls pop up in a circular motion.
I have
Super
no idea
rad.
what you're talking about.
Oh, from Naboo when Obi-Wan was getting stuck in between the red laser wall when Qui-Gon and Darth Maul were fighting.
Like they go back there? Or...
No, this just
No,
a
he's just
different-
saying when the Inquisitors were fighting at the end, he said you have one last test, and he threw one lightsaber in between Barriss and this
Oh
random
yeah,
Inquisitor,
and they had that showdown,
and
the
then
cage
they have
fight.
like a
It's sweet.
what it looks like what's it called? Fortnite-esque battle arena where
the
that
storm.
the storm's
It
going to keep
does.
circling in
Yeah.
tighter and tighter, and it's going to eventually end with them being squeezed. But yeah, I'm super excited. I'm not too worried. like I said, I think it's more wrapping up other loose ends than starting a new story in this timeline. But give Dave Filoni time. Let him cook. I don't think he has
I know I'm
any
gonna love it.
shortage
It's just,
of animated shows. I think there was
he's
a
gonna
comment.
die soon.
No way.
I mean, not soon, but 30, 40 years
Okay,
even.
yeah, if you
At the
consider
rate
that
he's
soon.
going, he is
there's
glacial pace in terms of exploring the timeline.
there was a comment on the YouTube
On the YouTube, Grandpa.
on the trailer on YouTube is what I was
Oh.
trying to say. On the trailer on YouTube, someone commented and they said it was hey Dave, how many of these animated shows do you want to make? Dave Filoni, yes. He has no
Yeah.
shortage. He will do this forever.
Yeah, he will, and they're all gonna be great, and I'm gonna love them.
In fact, we're giving him credit for this. Is it confirmed that he's doing this? Is this him? Because he's not really that involved with Bad
I mean,
Batch season 3.
what do you mean? Is it him? Like,
I think
I'm
I
sure
mean, he's
someone
chief
else is
creative
directing
officer, so
it.
he's getting some sort of producing credit. But like, is he writing these stories?
I
I
bet.
doubt it.
really?
Yeah, I don't think he can waste. No, I mean not waste his time, but I honestly don't think he can. As a CCO, I don't think he's going to have time to realistically handle 3 new movies. I mean, presumably he's directing the New Republic movie and then also having a hand in writing the bigger movies. I don't think he's really going to waste time with a 6-episode animated show anymore, to be honest. I think definitely oversight, and that's the thing too, is that I think anything that's coming out of Star Wars is going through Dave Filoni for sure. It's just
I
how
guess
much,
I guess it means how much input
Yeah,
he had. I
he
think he
definitely
sat
does,
down
though.
whoever is creating it and just dumped the lore on them for an hour and a half.
Oh, at
Correct.
They took
1,000%.
diligent notes.
Yeah, I mean, the Barriss Offee's continuing Barriss Offee's storyline and doing a prequel to Morgan Elsbeth. Obviously, Dave Filoni had a long conversation with someone and said, "All right, here's what I was thinking," and then maybe that person ran with it. Maybe Dave Filoni did.
He also gives me the impression of the kind of guy that's like, hey, all right, go do your thing now after that hour and a half meeting. But then every single day he checks in on you and then he gives you another hour and a half lesson. And so I do feel like he's probably realistically one of those guys. 'Cause,
Realistically,
like,
I could see that too, because I could also see George Lucas doing that exact
Yes.
same thing, and that's where he learned it from.
That's true.
but also kind of like an exciting way, so it's nice to collaborate. But then you're like, okay, he's kind of over pushing his bounds, but it's also like, well, he's my boss, so what do I do in this situation?
And his ideas are better.
I imagine
Yeah.
someone sitting at their desk, handwriting the script, and Dave Filoni's just over their shoulder. I don't know about that line.
Yes.
Erase.
Right.
Let's think together about how we can make that line better. No, not that. No, not that. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, maybe we should go with that.
Yeah. Oh, your original idea you pitched? Okay, yeah, let me do this. Let me just do what you just said, Dave.
All right, let's get into these. I assume they're going to be 3-episode arcs, one with Barriss, one with Morgan Elsbeth. Let's talk about the Barriss one first. So last we saw her, she was imprisoned by the Republic for bombing the Jedi Temple, and I assume this is weeks or months after that, and she's becoming an Inquisitor. My real only tinfoil hat idea about the story beyond she becomes an Inquisitor is that Luminara is going to be in it. Have you guys thought about that?
I
Why
haven't
would
thought-
she? We never see her
Because
die.
We never see her die, but we do see they do something funky with her body in Rebels to lure Jedi to that place. You remember that episode of Rebels? It was in season 1.
That they had that vision of her.
Yeah, and they have her remains in this place to lure Jedi there.
Hmm.
And it would be cool if we get to see that, idea come up, if anything else, but also if we get to see Luminara again and she gets taken down by Barriss as an Inquisitor, that would be so poetic and awesome.
That would be. The only thing is that it feels like if you have 3 episodes, I feel like it's all going to be her training to be the Inquisitor, right?
You could probably do that in one.
I'm
Just give
maybe.
her a red lightsaber and have her kill someone.
That's true. Maybe
But I feel
Vader's in like
everything we've
one
seen
episode.
in the trailer was her training.
Yeah.
That's true, but I mean,
That would be cool though to expand, and I think maybe that's what I mean, even by like expanding the show a little bit and like tweaking it from Tales of the Jedi. And maybe it is maybe one episode you have her, maybe like how she got to where she's at now, and then maybe it's her training, and the 3rd episode is her. I don't know. I just feel like it does have that opportunity to explore more. Because 3-episode arcs are so small and so contained, and I don't know. I'm excited for the show. Obviously, I'm excited to just again watch Star Wars, and it's fun to fill in these gaps. And sometimes I complain about how you're gonna have to watch, Mandalorian, and then you're gonna have to watch Book of Boba Fett, and then Mandalorian again, and then a movie, and it's confusing. But at the same time, it's we do that with the animated shows anyway already, because it's like, oh yeah, just watch Tales of the Jedi or watch Rebels to continue on from Clone Wars and blah blah blah.
watch Rebels and then Ahsoka and then Tales of the Empire.
Empire, yes, exactly. But it's like, hey, that's the fun part of that. You can dive in and find out more information if you want. And these stories aren't necessarily, they're new, but they're not necessarily integral to the story advancing, because we know for the most part, like Morgan Elsbeth, we know that she already dies. It's just kind of adding more depth to that.
But we don't know about Barris, which is what I was going to add,
Exactly,
because
yeah.
I'm curious to see if we see her death. I feel like we will. Otherwise, it's just going to end on this note of continuation where it's like, oh, okay, well, what happens to Barris Offee after that? I think it's going to
could
die.
be.
My question is if she's going to have some sort of redemption arc or if she's going to die a villain, because the trailer obviously made this season out to be like all about turning to the dark side. Even the on-screen text was the fear, anger, hate, suffering, all that. So I think the first arc is probably going to be the arc about Morgan Elsbeth, about her kind of coming to the dark side or whatever, joining the Empire. And then the second arc is going to be Barris, and then hers is going to have a similar arc, but it's probably going to be like she takes like one step too far. She realizes the error in the ways, or whatever. Maybe she recognizes that the Jedi was wrong, but this is also wrong, and she has some, coming to light moment before she dies or something at the end.
I'm more excited for this season also than Jedi. Not to making it about me again, I guess too, but like maybe it was just like Dooku and Ahsoka are just like the two most boring characters you could have for that.
Well, I push back on Dooku, but Ahsoka is definitely.
Yes, I think it was just a pairing of them.
piqued
If it
no
was
one's
Dooku
interest.
and someone else, for Dooku and Kit Fisto, you have me on board.
Mhm.
Just because Dooku's just more interesting. We haven't seen him in a while,
I know.
But
And it was a different side of Dooku. We
Yes,
never saw that. Yeah.
But this specifically, like even you talking about that, I'm like, oh, that does sound interesting. And then I'm like, oh, well, Morgan Elsbeth too will be super interesting to get more depth on that. And so like again, filling in those gaps for where we really don't know, and having the different side of that coin of like, okay, well, we know how one person dies. We don't know how the other one's story necessarily would begin or end in this section of becoming an Inquisitor. So those are both really interesting stakes.
Maybe she comes to the light and she doesn't die, and we can add her as a possible Jedi that we'll see in Knights of the Hidden Path.
I think
TM.
if she gets redeemed, I would love for it to be Luminara. I'm a big Luminara fan, not because she does anything cool or interesting
Or
ever,
because you named your dog after
but because
her.
I named my dog after her. And the more I think about it, though, it would also fit if she interacted with Ahsoka as an Inquisitor. But now I'm thinking like layers on top of layers. Is that just too much of a meme at this point for Dave Filoni to throw Ahsoka in yet another one of his projects
It might
in a
be.
row? But
In the
it would
second
make
season.
sense on a storyline basis.
I would be shocked, but not surprised.
I would not be shocked or surprised.
So you're expecting it.
I'm not going to go as far as to say I'm expecting it. I put it at 50-50.
There's two things I'm thinking of, and one of them is I wonder how many you were talking about how many shows that Filoni can do animated wise, and I'm wondering if he has like just say a budget per year, and he can do X amount with that budget. So you go, okay, we can do 2 movies in one show, or we can do 3 shows in one movie. I wonder if there's like so. And I know it's not necessarily that like cut and dried necessarily, but I do wonder why we aren't getting more animated shows necessarily, because especially for May 4th, it feels like it's kind of a pretty even and low key May 4th coming up in the next couple of weeks, because it feels like Tales of the Empire, and that's basically about it, right? I mean, potentially a trailer for Skeleton
The
Cruise,
Bad Batch finale.
the Bad Batch finale, but at the same time, it's the finale. It's just odd. It's like the finale, and then we have a starting of a show, but that's it, really, right?
That's it. What else do you want? What more
I
could
don't
it be?
I just feel like it just feels like usually there's like some hype towards like a trailer or hype towards something.
I do
little
have
nuggets.
I do have thoughts on the timing, but we'll address that later, because I do also want to still talk about the Barris storyline and what all we'll see. Specifically with the Inquisitors, I did want to ask you guys, because like I said, we do see that unnamed Inquisitor and Marok. Do you think we're going to get any more of their story fleshed out, or do you think we're just going to see them and be like, oh, there's Marok, that's cool?
I don't know, because the season 1, the Ahsoka arc was completely separated from the Dooku arc. There was no overlap at all. It would be cool to have an overlap this time and have Marok be the connecting tissue between the Barris arc and the Morgan Elsbeth arc.
That would be right.
Maybe he like dies in the Barris arc and then Morgan revives him in her arc. That would be cool. And we kind of know that happens already.
Yeah.
The whole series. Well, I guess I'll save that for the Morgan when we talk about the Morgan arc.
I mean, yeah, I guess I have more to say with the Morgan arc too, because Ahsoka specifically is top of mind in comparison.
Yeah, we were going to record our Ahsoka review tonight instead of this, and then the trailer just dropped. So
Yep.
we all just watched Ahsoka also. And all right, we ready to talk about? Do you have anything else to say about the Barris arc? Any thoughts or tinfoil hat moments?
She looks cool in an
yes.
Inquisitor helmet or mask,
Mhm.
facial covering that is not her face, in the hood.
Why can't I picture it?
She looks cool. I don't know.
All the Inquisitors
is
look
it-
cool.
When
They've
she's
never had a
kneeling
problem
down
with
when
that.
Vader's walking by.
Is it like her space hijab? Because Barris and Luminara wear, I don't know what to call them. I call them space hijabs because it's like, I always joke that when they made George Lucas put on a woman that wasn't sexualized, he had to make them extremely religious.
Well, there has to be a reason why we're not seeing her boobs, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
They're
already-
religious.
It's either Ayla Secura or you're a pious nun. Yeah.
Or no, it's when she's training. She's got like the Inquisitor outfit on.
Okay. I can't picture that exactly.
Do you guys think?
But do it real quick. Is it really cool in your head?
Yeah.
I've never had a problem with the way the Inquisitors look. The Inquisitors have always looked entertaining.
Yes.
Oh no, I forget what I was about to say. Do you guys think we're gonna see Barris find out who Vader is? Because there is a big irony to Anakin being the reason that Barris Offee was ultimately convicted and sentenced, and now she's reporting to him.
Maybe Vader will force choke slam her against a wall and she'll be like, oh, this is just like the way Anakin used to do it.
Hear me out.
There
Maybe
we are
there's
back
a
to the sexuality. That
maybe
sounds
there's
kinky.
maybe there's a storyline just off the top of my dome where she actually knew it was Anakin the entire time and she's avenged against him, and then she goes to kill him, and then he knows this is coming and denies her and doesn't even put up a fight. She can't even draw a saber out, and then
It's just Dave Filoni giving a big finger to the Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
I was gonna say that's
Yeah.
what happened with Reva.
See, this is how you fucking do it.
it's
No,
just
Reva was good. I don't.
yeah
We like Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show.
Go listen to our
and the
review.
character.
Yeah.
All right, we ready to talk about the Morgan Elsbeth arc then?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm more excited for the Morgan Elsbeth, but I guess I have a lot more to say about it.
I'm definitely less excited. It feels like like people joke that Star Wars has required reading and stuff, and you
Yeah.
got to just watch this to understand. This is the first time, I guess, probably not. I'm saying that. The massacre on Dathomir, the death of Mother Talzin, Grievous's genocide was in a comic book, the Darth Maul Son of Dathomir comic. And now it seems like we're getting that on screen, which people have asked for a lot. And they ask for it with every single decent comic or book. They say, oh, I would love to see this on screen. I've always been the dissenting voice to that because we have a great comic book about it. We don't
Yeah.
need it again. So it seems like this is going to be a lot of what we saw already, just for a larger audience, because animation has a way larger audience than the comics. And so all of the other stuff with Morgan Elsbeth and Thrawn, I thought was properly implied in Ahsoka. Like, I just rewatched Ahsoka and I never was unclear about Morgan Elsbeth's background. Like, she was a
Same.
Night Sister, she survived, she wants to bring glory to Dathomir, and she's doing it through the Empire. Like, that makes sense to me. So I don't have any glaring questions about her that I needed answered like I do with Barris. I'm sure I'm gonna love it again. My anticipations and whatever feelings about the announcement of a story never correlates to the quality of the story itself or how much I like it. See Andor or Solo, but I am not that excited for this one right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is definitely a prequel to Ahsoka that we don't need. I think
And for a
I think
character
you're
we
right.
don't love necessarily. She's cool.
She was
Yeah,
probably
she's
my least
fine.
favorite character in Ahsoka.
Yeah.
I mean, I love all the characters in Ahsoka, so it is
Least
not
favorite
that
by
favorite.
default.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Everyone else was so cool.
It's kind of tough.
Oh my gosh, do you think we could see Balin?
That would be so amazing. I don't see why not.
Maybe in the Barris
When-
storyline.
I would think it would make more sense in the Morgan Elsbeth storyline, although Thrawn doesn't know him.
It's possible.
So-
It's possible. But
Yeah.
does he not? Why not?
Mm.
Oh no, that's correct.
They
He
meet,
then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that would be a really cool way to continue, for Balin to continue as an animation a bit more too. Again, he needs to be in Ahsoka season 2, but man, that would be a really good twist.
Oh my
Not
gosh!
twist.
Now you
I've never even thought
you
about that.
completely 180'd me. I'm way more excited for the Morgan Elsbeth arc now than the Barris arc. I
Because
got the
of
hope that Balin's Skull will be in it. Maybe baby Shin Hati also. Probably not. I'm
Baby
memeing
Shin
about that one, but it could happen. There,
Ex Jedi
she
named
knows
Balin
him
Skull
from
finds
some
her
point.
in a dumpster out back and decides to raise her as his own.
Even though it's his child, but he just doesn't want to tell her that he's her dad.
I have so much to say about this, but we're not doing our Ahsoka season 1 review right now.
That's true. Yeah, the Morgan Elsbeth one, visually when you're looking at it, I'm like, no, I'm more excited to see Vader, even though we've talked about it. But even seeing Grievous is cool, and I think seeing Morgan Elsbeth be more badass and more agile, just because she's not as old. Plus, obviously, animation is a huge factor. of just fighting differently. I'm excited to see that aspect of it, but again, kind of knowing how it ends is totally fine. But again, Star Wars and advancing this story, and I think showing our kids these stories eventually will be interesting to be like, are we going to show them Tales of the Empire, and then does it have that much significance to before you have Ahsoka? Like you said, required reading, is it really going to matter, or is this going to be a nice fun bonus thing you can watch later, which presumably it will be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it is going to be required reading. I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of required reading to see this, because I think if you haven't seen
That's true.
Clone Wars or Ahsoka, you're not going to know who any of these people are, or Rebels. But I think why this show speaks to a lot of people is because it is a little more
Mhm.
unnecessary. So they're not trying to like I said, like start these huge stories. They're just
Yeah.
going back and kind of filling in these little gaps, and I think that's what a lot of people appreciate.
I'm excited to see Grievous again.
Yeah.
I remember when the Clone Wars season 7 came out, he was in like the 1940s broadcaster recap that starts with every episode of the Clone Wars. They
Mhm.
just mentioned General Grievous and like cut
Yeah.
to him for a shot. And they very clearly made a brand new model for him for season 7, because they did it with a lot of characters, but he was only in that one shot in the summary in the beginning. And everyone was like, it seems like a lot of effort for that one shot. And so we, as a community, agreed that we would probably see him again. And so I am excited. He looks sick, but I can't help but think about that Imperial March Madness episode we did earlier or last week. And if I had pitted Morgan Elsbeth against General Grievous, I don't see a single way that could be an interesting fight.
Yeah, I would have picked Grievous in a
He's-
landslide. I'm interested
Yep.
to see how that plays out.
But
I
she's got
know.
the hooks now.
The hooks
The
look cool.
scythe,
Yeah.
scythe.
Scythes?
What are those called?
I think, I don't know.
The hooks.
One is called the scythe.
The
We'll
hooks.
go with hooks.
It's not a hook.
They're hooks. They're hooks. But I'm really excited to see that fight. Super excited to see Thrawn in the Clone Wars animation.
Yep.
He's gonna look awesome.
When you texted me Tales of the Empire this morning, I was like, I don't know what in the goddamn hell he's talking about right now. And then I obviously promptly Googled it because I was just very busy with work today, so I didn't
Mhm.
even wasn't on the internet much today. So I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
here we go.
I walked out of a meeting. I said, I'm having an emergency. Hold on.
Did you really?
Yeah, I just told them I was shitting my pants. They understood. No, I'm just kidding. But I did see those texts a lot later, and there were like 10 texts back and forth from you guys. I was like, wait, what's going on? And then I saw Tales of the Empire, and I was like, oh. And so I YouTube Tales of the Jedi because it didn't like process right away. And then when I saw the end of the thing, I was like, Tales of the Jedi, Empire. So it was an actual reveal for me, which was exciting. The caption didn't spoil it. 'Cause I couldn't think
That is shocking.
that clearly.
I feel like you're in that I think you should leave sketch when he's trying to eat a hot dog during the meeting. You can't skip lunch, but you're pretending to sleep watching Tales of the Empire trailer at a meeting around a table.
Oh, that reminds me of when I used to work at a job and the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer came out, and I was after that, but still that same day, I had a meeting, and I asked all my coworkers at the meeting if they saw the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer, and no one answered, and one of them was like, "Is that the guy from Star Wars?" And I was like, "Yeah." I quit that job shortly after. I hated it there.
It was in that moment Luke knew he was not long for this company.
How old? Because you always say that these people were older that you worked with, right?
Yeah, they were a bunch of olds.
They should know exactly what Star Wars is. Then you know what
They
I mean?
should. They just none of them were into it.
That's
it was a bummer.
insane. Well, what age range are we talking about?
Young boomers, I don't know, 50, late 50s.
That's insane. They would not have any reference of who Obi-Wan can like.
I mean, they knew who Obi-Wan was, but
I'm
or at
guessing.
least the one guy did. But also, I'm sure a lot of them just didn't want to talk to me.
I'm not saying that you're not likable, but is there a chance that this person knew exactly what you were talking about, but just was trying to insult you a little bit?
No, that's not possible.
Okay. This guy wasn't trying to knock you down a peg, being like, "Oh, is that from the Star Wars?" And
Not
you're
an,
just like,
not an
"God."
option.
And you did walk. You came into work every day in your Jedi robes just to change out of them as well.
These are just my commutes.
Yes, and your car is painted like the land speeder. I'm thinking Maxis, and it's a convertible all year round. And you lived in Buffalo. That was insane.
It was so
Luke.
impractical.
it was not a culture match there. I remember also when Taylor Swift dropped one of her new albums. I was listening to it in my office, and my boss came in, and I was like, "Hey, did you hear Taylor Swift had a new album come out?" And he said, "Are you serious?" But not in like a, "Oh my God, are you serious? Taylor Swift had a new album come out." More like a, "Are you serious?" I was like actively listening to it. I just hit pause, and I was like, "Yep."
Guess I'll jump out this window. Good thing I'm on the 30th floor.
I just started playing it for a joke as you look and you're on like song number 12.
Stuff like that came up a
Let
lot.
me go back to Metallica now.
Jobs suck anyway. Tales of the Jedi, or Tales of the Empire. Do we have anything else that we want to say about it before we start to wrap up?
I'm excited to see more animation. Honestly, I mean, obviously we love Bad Batch, but I'm just excited to see some more Star Wars animation. It's fun. It's, yeah, I don't know. I think that's about it really for me. It looks cool. Like I said, I'm excited to see Grievous. Excited to see Vader. It is funny, like you said, Luke. They play Vader moment at the end, like it's a big reveal. It's like it's
Every year.
he fits perfect in the poster though. If within the Empire symbol, it's in the little bottom. If you look at the poster, he fits perfect.
Oh,
there.
we'll put a picture up on screen for
Yeah.
a viewer on YouTube because I
It's
can't
right
picture
there.
it either.
Thank you for that. Yes, so this is my final thought, but it's kind of a big one. So stay with me for a second as I put on my tinfoil hat. Because first off, the comments on the trailer on YouTube was like universally like, yes, this looks amazing. This is what I'm here for, yada, yada, yada. And it made me start to think, because there was some news stories recently about how the trailer for The Acolyte was not doing very well and how it got ratioed on YouTube. It had like significantly more dislikes than it had likes, which I'm not even sure how people know that because that's not public.
I know it's hearsay and conjecture.
I guess there's a way. Yeah. So take it with a grain of salt, but there's a way that people believe they figured it out and it had significantly more dislikes than likes.
You know, Qui-Gon Jinn said your focus determines your reality. And so it only takes one person to affirm your negative thoughts until you start going around saying everyone thinks the same thing you do.
Well,
That's deep, Luke. That was good. I like that. No joke. Just that was nice.
but I mean, regardless, whether or not it's true, though, there's media for that. Like there's stories about it and everything. And then obviously they had their big Disney Investor Day yesterday as of recording it. The very next day they dropped this trailer and they also announced that it's coming out May 4th, which is before The Acolyte. Do you think that all of this was planned beforehand, or do you think that any of this was pushed up due to backlash from The Acolyte, and that's why they
No.
wanted to try to get back in the good graces of some fans and be like, hey, let's just push this out a little bit earlier. They'll like that.
If it wasn't May 4th, I mean,
I'm glad-
right? Like I
I'm
thought
glad
to be
you prefaced
crazy.
this with the tinfoil hat comment. I think you should go as far as to edit a tinfoil hat on your head right now because you sound so stupid.
It
No,
is one of those
it's
things.
something to think about.
This
Why
stuff
would they?
is-
Why would they
This
announce?
has been in the works for years. There is
'Cause I
no way
think-
they could just push it up
Yeah.
several months or
The-
however far.
Tales
for
of the
one.
Empire is just kind of a fun random show, like you said, with really no stakes. So let's like throw a bone to the fans a little bit. I think for May 4th, they're announcing it like 3 weeks before it's supposed to come out. I think it's just all right. Here you
The
go.
last couple trailers came out on a Tuesday though, because we had to record emergency episodes.
And
That's
thank
true.
God they came out on a Thursday because that's the recording days anyway.
Right.
Yeah,
For
that was
recording.
nice.
It was really nice.
Yes.
But I mean, why do you think they did that?
I don't know trailer wise why that specific date. I don't know, but I also know like it's crazy when the Acolyte
I
trailer
mean,
came out.
there was
it
a big the shareholder day meeting. It's a pretty big deal. I mean, Bob Iger there was a big proxy fight with some people who were trying to add some seats to the board and everything.
Yes,
Like,
they were.
do you think there was any like, hey, Bob Iger won
I don't-
the vote by a significant margin, and then he was like, "Don't worry, we'll get the Star Wars fans back in our good graces tomorrow."
I don't think at
No.
those meetings they're thinking about Star Wars at all. To be honest, I don't. I think they're
I think
thinking.
you're right. I think that's exactly. I mean, the proxy fight. That's like what it was all about. Like,
No,
they, like,
those
didn't like
people are the
direction
ones that I
Marvel
used to
and Star
work
Wars were
with
going in.
also. That if Bob Iger mentioned it, they'd be like, oh, is that the one with Dark Vader?
Yeah, because I think they were trying what's it called, the independent. I don't think he was a socialist guy. Whatever, that guy was trying to buy his way into Disney, and I think that's when you're dealing with billions of dollars. I think they're more concerned about that versus what are the nerds gonna like on May 4th. If you've ever seen Succession, I feel like it's very much like that. I don't think they're thinking intricate details. I think they have, they're thinking big picture overall.
Yeah, once again, your focus determines your reality. I bet there's 3 dorks in a basement somewhere on their Indiana Jones podcast talking about how the Disney shareholder meeting was all about the Indiana Jones universe. No. It's very, very tangentially related for that meeting in particular.
I'm imagining Bizarro Force for Thought, like the Bizarro Jerry episode, like when they see each other, their other versions of themselves. I imagine they look just like us, but they're sitting in a different arrangement.
They all
and-
have Indiana Jones hats
Yes,
on.
they look slightly different than us. Like I have no beard, you have a really big beard, you have really long hair.
But if they usually release these on Tuesdays, why wouldn't they do this before the big shareholder
I
meeting?
don't think historically they're always on Tuesdays.
I know,
though,
I wanted
are
to
they?
say that too, but I couldn't remember. I know the Acolyte was.
We only did the last
and
2, so those were the only 2 that I'm going off of.
The
And
Bad
that's-
Batch,
yeah.
season
Acolyte
3.
and Bad Batch, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I assume there's some sort of, I don't know. In my mind, there's some sort of release schedule for some reason. Because when Acolyte came out, for example, I know that week as well on Friday was the Beetlejuice trailer, I believe, and they had a couple other trailers along with that. So I assume, for example, I don't know what was a couple days
Yeah,
ago,
I mean,
but
half
they're
of the IP out there is Disney. They have a master
That's true,
schedule
because they're
somewhere.
also
of
with
the-
Hulu and everyone now, so they
Yeah.
probably had some other trailers drop on
That's what
Tuesday.
I'm
or
trying to
something.
think of what came out on Tuesday. But yeah, usually when there's trailers like that coming out, or if it's just again a lower lift where it's like, let's just give this is a Thursday schedule release, because I don't really know. Usually, Monday, Tuesday, I feel like are the bigger trailers. But again, you have last Friday or so when the Beetlejuice trailer came out, or the teaser came out, because it was like that's a huge deal too. So, I just wonder if it's like, okay, Thursdays are going to do a little bit less, or whatever. Again, especially for a 6-episode anthology series for a show that has no new stakes, it's kind of not a throwaway, but
It's
Well,
not
I
a
think
throwaway
it's-
for Lucasfilm, but I
yeah,
think it
that's
might
what
be
I was
for
going to
Disney.
say. For Star Wars, I think it's a big deal, but
Yes.
that's a good point though about like all the other things that are technically under Disney's umbrella. They have a lot of other stuff that they're also competing with, and they don't want to step on themselves.
Well,
Okay.
we got to the bottom of that at least. Max, you can take off your tinfoil hat now. Let us know what you guys think of this Tales of the Empire trailer or the idea of the show as a whole. Do you think we'll ever get Tales of the Resistance Jedi or New Republic or High Republic, or you think it'll always be this era until the sun burns out of the sky like I think? Follow us on social media, email us on Gmail, and we'll see you next time.
see you, Sammy.